Hello and welcome. In this video, which I hope to keep short, I just want to talk about volume bars in particular and how they can help you with your trading. So before I get started, I also want to say that this video is by no means everything there is to know about volume. This is just a short video about this particular way of reading volume using the basic volume bars, the free indicator. I'd like to later do some videos about fixed range volume profiles and things like that, but that's going to be later. This one's so basic, I just want to do it and then have it done so that if anyone has a question, I can just refer them to this video and maybe it'll help them out a little bit. So I've noticed some people asking questions about the volume bars and why some of them are red, like sell volume, and some are green at different areas, and sometimes it doesn't always correspond. And I want to say that in my opinion, from what I understand, it doesn't really matter on this basic volume indicator. It doesn't really matter what color the volume bars are. What's really important is how big they are, and if those bigger bars occur at the peaks or at the dips. So if you've got like a higher high, kind of like here, you got your high, you have a spike here, which occurred way before that. And so that's what you want to start to notice. And from what I know and what I've seen, in most cases, the majority of the time, before a trend change, you'll see this happen. And this is what happens. Say like you've got this little uptrend here, and you had a big volume spike here, but then like when you got to the peak, the volume was lower. And what this means is when volume spikes before the peak, it means that most likely that is shown that there's a weakness in the trend, and almost always a reversal can follow. And this works in downtrends too. So let me try to find a good example of that. Let's see if this will work. Kinda. Yeah, so what you really want is you want your volume to spike at the very bottom. And if it's a lower low, the volume bar should be a little higher than this previous low. But in this case, it reversed anyway. But a lot of the times, like this will, in the majority of the time, this will indicate a trend change. So you had this big dip here, and the volume spiked like right there. It was the biggest spike. And then you had another big one. But as you got down to this bottom, the volume was low. And what happened was you started to see a reversal where the price started going up again. And like in this case, like it's very possible, I don't want to say for sure, but you have a spike here which is higher than the peak here, which kind of looks like it's going down. But we'll see what happens when it interacts with this trend line a little more on Moodang. So you'll see this a lot if you look, like here you had an uptrend, but there was no volume at the top, and then it reversed. And like here, your biggest volume bar was not at the very bottom, and then it reversed. So this indicates a weakening of that little downtrend. So that's what I understand of that. And if you have a lower low, you should have a higher volume bar. And it may be red or green. I don't think that really matters. I mean, there's things you can do with that, and there's free volume indicators you can get that can help you get into that and looking into all the volume divergences. But I'm not really wanting to talk about that in this video, but basically just kind of to show you how these bars work, so you can see if the trend is weakening, and when you should be getting ready to get out of a trade if you so happen to be in a long on something like this. But in this case, you did have the volume spike pretty close to the top, and then you had you actually had a little volume divergence here, and and it kind of started going down. But the volume didn't like dip way down here. It was still kind of strong. So for that reason, I think it went sideways for a while before it came down slowly. Um, but basically, you'll have that where it'll indicate like a trend change is coming if the volume goes down real fast after like a pump. And in this case too, there's some 4-hour supply zone up here. So you also had like this wick. Anyway, that's kind of another topic. I'm not really talking about that in this video. That's not what I want to talk about. But like here, well, you had a spike here, but it still went down for a while. It's kind of weird. I suppose it's probably because that spike is so massive, and there were multiple resistance levels here, and it couldn't get through any of this resistance. So it's not 100% all the time, but it will usually indicate a change in the trend. And another thing, like you want to use volume bars for, is for breakouts. And this can also work around the 200 EMA as well. But let's say if you've had some consolidation, like so if I zoomed out this, well, anyway, this is let's just look here, and I'll just show you so you know what you're looking at. This is on the 4-hour, and you can tell there was some support here for a little while, and then it became resistance, and then it blasted through and made it into support, and then like hit it again. So how the volume hits on like support and resistance is very key. Like in this case, like there was a resistance line up here, and the volume went up a little, but it wasn't like enough to break out, and it wasn't sustained. But like typically in a breakout, it'll be sustained like this here. So it finally broke through this upper resistance, and you had a massive amount of volume, buy volume, and it was still, like when you look here, comparing it, these are much higher. So typically you get way higher volume bars on breakouts and things, and more of them, because it's sustained. And that's how you know if something's, like a fake out instead of a breakout. So that's really important. Let's see if I can, here we go. But yeah, you want to see a large amount of volume on breakouts, and you want to see it sustained. Like here, you had a little spike, you had a run up, you actually had your peak afterwards. But the thing was, like, I guess it just wasn't enough. I mean, when you zoom in, it looks kind of bigger, but it wasn't sustained, and obviously it didn't make it. Like, so like you should never really trade breakouts. Maybe you could trade like the retest, like if it went up pretty good and then came back down and tested it like it did over here. And sometimes you will have these spikes too, where it fails to break out, but you'll know a breakout when you see one, because it's way more volume, and like this, and it's sustained, and it actually even went up, in this case. But if you look at your charts and you back test for a while, you'll see what I mean on here. It's a great tool, because you will have times where, like, okay, like say the price is coming down into the support, but you don't have increased volume. If it was going to dip more, even if it was going to break out to the downside, you should see some volume. And you will have that, like even here. Yeah, maybe that's why all this extra volume came in, because it broke down through here. But you had more volume for sure when it broke out here, and it was sustained, because you can see how low the volume is over here. But like it's much higher. It's like 2 or 3 times, 4 times higher over here, and it's pretty sustained. Like, so there's such much in size, like, of a difference with these bars. Like when you zoom in, a higher high should have a higher volume spike, associated with it. And it's the same with lower lows. So let's just see, like, here's a lower low and there's a high volume spike right there. But it was right at the low and the downtrend continued. In this case, well, it was right at the low, but it kind of reversed. But you did have some buy volume coming in. But that's pretty much it. That's a good thing to know about reading volume bars. And I just wanted to share it. There's more to know about this. I could go into like volume and other ways, like looking at it in different ways. But that I just wanted to talk about these in this video and then make more videos about different ways to read volume and how people trade volume. And there's so many different ways in that. It's just like a whole nother aspect of trading. So this video is just to be pretty basic. If you like, please subscribe or leave comments and let me know what you think, or if you're in the Discord, then if you want to chat with me about this and you want to share some things that you know about this, that'd be great, because like I said, I don't know everything on this, but I'm learning, and I'm always open to learn more if you have something to share about this. So thanks for taking the time and have a great day.